Before I get started with this article, let me give a shout out to Trill Texas on Twitter for sending it to me. Now, when it comes to the Ahmaud Arbery situation, we always talk about the McMichaels, mainly because they're the main culprits behind his murder. But we rarely ever talk about the other person who was involved, which is this guy right here, William Roddie Bryan, in which he was the one that was recording the incident, in which is how we saw the unfortunate event of Ahmaud Arbery being murdered by those two hillbilly hicks. But the story that I'm about to read to you should be even more reason as to why we should have kept our eye really on this guy as well, and why I believe he should be brought up on hate crime charges himself. So, in case y'all didn't know, William Roddie Bryan, he, of course, at this point is a dub S, and what I'm about to read to you is going to prove just that. His daughter was dating a black man, and it has come out that William Roddie Bryan was using a racial slur in order to describe this black man that his daughter was dating. And it was very recent and close to the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, because from what I gather, it was just days before, like less than a week before the incident with Ahmaud Arbery occurring. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article, and we're going to get some more insight. And it was posted on February 14th, 2022. 4 days before William Roddie Bryan chased down Ahmaud Arbery with his neighbors, the Georgia man used a racial slur to describe a black man his daughter was dating. That shocking detail was among several instances of Bryan's racist behavior before Arbery's February 23, 2020 homicide in Satilla Shores, prosecutors said. Bryan and his neighbors Travis and Gregory McMichael have been sentenced to life after being convicted of Arbery's murder, which has been described as a modern-day lynching under the guise of vigilante law enforcement. Prosecutors are now arguing that the trio's actions were motivated by racial animus at their federal hate crime trial. The men face several charges, including interfering with Arbery's right to use a public street because of his race and kidnapping. The McMichaels, who had initially agreed to plead guilty in a deal that was ultimately rejected by a judge, are also facing count of using a firearm during the violent crime. During the opening arguments, Assistant U.S. Attorney Bobby Bernstein explained to jurors that the case does not require proof of hate, but rather that the three white men acted because of race and made assumptions about Arbery based on his skin color. Bernstein then began detailing past incidents of racist behavior. Travis McMichael, who fatally shot Arbery, allegedly previously used racial epithets about black people and once called them animals, criminals, monkeys, subhuman, savages. "Zero N-words work with me," he wrote in a text message to a friend, prosecutors alleged on Monday. "They ruined everything. That's why I love what I do now. Not an N-word in sight." Now, see, like I said, I'm glad they're digging this up, because that builds the case. Even though it has nothing to do with Ahmaud Arbery, because they're going on that trial for the hate crime, now they can use this as leverage to say they have a history of disliking black people because they're black. Prosecutors say that his father, who was a former cop, allegedly made a negative comment about after the 2015 death of Julian Bond, a civil rights activist and former Georgia state representative. "Bad? I wish he'd been put in the ground years ago. He's nothing but trouble. Those blacks are nothing but trouble," McMichael allegedly told a witness while he was still an investigator for the local DA's office. The witness is set to testify during the trial. But what is perhaps the most disturbing example of racism from the trio, prosecutors allege that just days before Arbery's murder, Bryan made several racist comments after learning his daughter was dating a black man. "She is dating an N-word now," Bryan allegedly said in a message. Bryan also repeatedly referred to the man by the racial slur and called him a monkey, Bernstein said. Now let me pause right there. To all those Joe Rogan sympathizers and supporters who claim that, it was out of context with the Planet of the Apes comment, this guy right here referred to his daughter's black date, boyfriend, or whoever he is to her, as monkey, and they're using that in the case against him in this hate crime trial portion of the case. So what do you got to say about that? Since people want to claim that, people are over exaggerating. Or was that used out of context? On the day of Arbery's death, Bernstein said that Bryan told authorities that he saw the 25-year-old running and knew he had to be a criminal. When asked what evidence he had to justify that Arbery could have been the individual that had been previously breaking into a home under the construction in the neighborhood, Bryan responded, instinct. That is some very dangerous rhetoric. One, he just said he just knew he had to be a criminal. One, he didn't even know him from a can of paint. They were complete strangers to each other. Then he said it was based off of instinct. And people like to say that we have moved into a post-racial society. Oh, I don't think so. It's not illegal to use racial slurs, Bernstein told the jurors, but these slurs can provide you with evidence as to why a defendant did what he did. Defense attorneys for the trio, however, all insisted to jurors that their clients may have said concerning statements in the past, but it did not mean their actions during the February 2020 incident were motivated by racial hate. I beg to differ, especially since with his case, he called his daughter's date all these racial slurs just 4 days prior to that. And I said on Twitter, when he saw Ahmaud Arbery, he probably saw his daughter's date or boyfriend or whoever, because they don't specify that. Well, they said dating, so I'm guessing you can just say boyfriend. He saw his daughter's boyfriend in Ahmaud. So when he was doing what he was doing, he probably put his daughter's boyfriend's face on Ahmaud's body and was probably salivating as it was happening. He knew it wasn't her daughter's boyfriend, but in his head it probably was. He was probably smiling on the other end, because remember, we don't see his face. We only see the view that we all saw of Ahmaud Arbery, unfortunately his last moments. During the state trial, the defense teams all insisted the men were simply trying to execute a citizen's arrest and acted in self-defense. And look at how that worked out for him. Pete Theodosian, Bryan's lawyer, insisted to jurors on Monday that he did not take the case to defend racism, but did acknowledge that his client used language that he is embarrassed about. See, that's that BS right there. So he said he did not take the case to defend racism, but, like what I always say, after the but comes bullshit. He did acknowledge that his client used language that he's embarrassed about. No, you did take this to defend racism because you are his defense attorney. So you're defending everything that he did up until this point, which was be a racist piece of shit. The defense lawyer insisted that Bryan does not see the entire world through the prism of race. Okay, then why did he refer to his daughter's boyfriend as those slurs then, if he didn't see it through the prism and lens of race then? Apparently he did. That's why don't let them run that game on you talking about they don't see color. They see it. They see it. And it makes them ill to know that they can see it. He says, and would have acted the same way on the day of Arbery's death if the man being pursued was white, Hispanic, or Asian. That's a lie. You want to know why? Because if you look at those surveillance footage of the people, like of the home in which Ahmaud Arbery was walking through periodically that was being worked on, there were other groups of people of other racial backgrounds, on PC in particular, that were going through there. It wasn't just black people or just Ahmaud Arbery, but they specifically targeted him. And they knew that it was other people going through there because the McMichaels lived, I think, across the street from the home that was being renovated or being worked on. So they were able to see the people that would come in and out of there all the time. And it wasn't just Ahmaud Arbery, but Ahmaud Arbery was the one being watched. So that's bullshit. I call cap on all of that, on this statement that they just gave. See, they think that we be forgetting. I didn't forget. I remember seeing that surveillance, that footage. I did a whole video about it back in 2020. That showed there were various different people from different ethnic backgrounds who were walking in and out of that area. Ahmaud Arbery was not the only one, but he was the one they targeted because in their minds he had to be up to no good. But they didn't say that about the other people that were walking through there as well. It goes on to say he never wanted any physical harm to Mr. Arbery, Theodosian added. And that's the whole article. Yeah, that last part, like that part right there, nah, that's not going to fly. They went after Ahmaud Arbery because he was black And in their mind, he fit the description. What did this piece of shit on the screen say? Instinct. Those are his words. Instinct. He already had a preconceived notion about this black man. And so did the McMichaels. And I'm glad they being ran through right goddamn now. And I can't wait for their asses to finally be in jail so they can experience hell on earth for the rest of their goddamn miserable ass lives. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Make sure you go and hit that bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video or go live.